Funding for today's show has been provided by World Literature Today, Our Lady of Victory Catholic Church, Knights of Columbus, Council 11648, and the Janine Rainbolt College of Education. Welcome to Current Conversations. I'm R.C. Davis-Indiano. Today we have the second part of an interview with Sister Rosemary Nyirumbe, a Catholic nun who, in 2014, Time magazine named one of the 100 most influential people in the world. She directs St. Monica's Vocational School in Gulu, Uganda, and since 2001, she's worked with over 2,000 young women who were abducted, raped, and pressed into service as soldiers. She is inspirational. Join us. Sister Rosemary, welcome to the show and to our little home here at the Western History Collection at the University of Oklahoma.
Thank you so much for having me here for the second time.
Well, I am thrilled to have you back, and especially because it's the second time, so we can continue our conversation. But I think we need to fill our audience in a little bit on some of the things that we talked about the first time. If you could talk a little bit about what happened in South Sudan and Uganda in 2001, just set the stage a little bit. That would really be helpful. Could you tell us about that?
Yeah, I would very much like to talk more about northern Uganda. And of course, South Sudan is very close to northern Uganda, and any problem in South Sudan directly affects northern Uganda. And the situation I have been working in has been more of conflict in northern Uganda, conflict which was started by the Lord's Resistance Army for like 20 years.
The Lord's Resistance Army.
Yes, okay. Yeah. This is the rebel group who waged war in northern Uganda for a long time. And
it was headed by Joseph Kony.
Joseph Kony, exactly. Right. But then this Lord's Resistance Army was so infamous and quite brutal too, with their target towards women and children, training them, taking them to be trained as sex slaves and also taking them as child soldiers. And that has been my focus, that I would rebuild the lives of these children who were totally brutalized, children who were rejected, children who were trained as child soldiers but managed to come back and the community did not accept them easily. I decided to focus on giving special attention to women because most of these young women also came back with children from the rebels.
Could I ask you about that part? Because what you did is still amazing to me. So, okay, here in Uganda, the Lord's Resistance Army, headed by Joseph Kony, and they abduct and rape and then press into service these young women, 14 or 15 years old, in some cases force them to murder their own families.
Yeah.
How did you get the idea, have the sympathy or the love, whatever you want to call it, to think these women who are now coming back and are going to be terrible outcasts, they can be brought back into society? It's a wonderful thing, but that's an amazing emotional and imaginative leap to think that's possible.
Yeah, you know, that is something quite difficult even to describe, and something which a lot of people will ask me questions of how you started and where you started from. And I always say there's never been a formula from where to start, and there's never been any school where you could go and you learn about how to deal with the people who have been deeply affected by this kind of conflict. It was really all about compassion and acceptance and love that you could offer to people.
But I have to say, it's compassion and love that I think a lot of people would not have in that situation, and you did, and that made everything possible to bring these girls back into society.
Yes, and I think it takes really a little bit of courage and overcoming fear, because first of all, these children have been trained to kill, and everybody knows their background. I think it was not right to just say, I'm going to fear and think about their background and remain judgmental. That is exactly where I thought fear was put aside, and what overcame fear was that love, compassion, and acceptance.
Let me ask you about that. So you had the idea that these girls needed to be accepted, and then they needed to have practical knowledge to make a living, so you created the school. But weren't you personally afraid of them? These girls, many of them, had committed atrocities.
I actually never in 1 minute got afraid about these girls. What I put aside was that these girls were forced to commit these atrocities, and they were actually innocent children. But the Lord's Resistance Army decided to make these children to be called murderers when they were not murderers. They forced them to kill when they were not killers. And I decided totally to take that role of accepting them as their mother, say these are the children who were once considered rebels or considered murderers, and now they've come back. They need someone who can open arms and say, here, I'm going to accept you back in a family. And it was difficult for the community to do that because definitely they were also scared to know about these children.
Let me ask you about that part. I mean, I think we're talking about one of the great crimes against humanity in the 20th century. Yeah. And so the community in Uganda must have been terrified of these girls who had been pressed into service and committed atrocities. So there must have been a lot of communal resistance to what you're trying to do, people that didn't want you to succeed, right?
Yeah, there are people who also try to resist, but not because they didn't want me to do it, but they didn't believe in it. And there are people who are giving names, calling these children that returnees. And I said, they are not returnees, they are actually members of this community. Right. They were taken by the rebels and now they've come back. We should not even give them any name. We should just take them as they are and accept them. And so if I compare the number of people who resisted, I think there are actually few because I first of all blocked my ears and I didn't care about whatever they would say. And I continued. And as such, I didn't realize even how many there were. I continued doing what I was doing. And for me, the most important thing was to make my own sisters understand the importance of being present in the lives of these young women. And as such, we continued on with the sisters in my community, and now we've taken it as our responsibility.
I think what you did is an act of Christian compassion that just goes beyond what most of us can really imagine. Now, the Catholic Church was not helping you early on, right?
Yeah.
You had no money, you had no budget, you just basically did this as an act of will.
Yeah.
And then support came later, right?
Yes, but I think the Catholic Church, in as far as the local church in Uganda, or Gulu itself, couldn't give me any support, simply because they themselves got totally involved in this problem. The conflict affected everybody. A lot of missions were even destroyed. A lot of parishes were destroyed. Some missionaries were also killed. And so the Catholic Church became helpless. But what I think was more of a support from the Catholic Church was that psychological support, that they can say, you continue, go on doing what you're doing. And of course, I'm speaking about the Archbishop. The Archbishop has been a great support, a great person who encouraged me to do what I was doing. And for me, that was the voice of the Catholic Church.
Let me just make sure I understand that point. So the psychological and emotional support from the Archbishop, that was support for you. Was that also support the girls felt from him?
Yes, of course, to say that, because sometimes he himself referred some of the girls he found, because the Archbishop was deeply involved in peace building. And sometimes if girls were found or some people referred some of these children to him, he would send them to St. Monica, which was for me a great support. I say that means he understands what we're doing, right, and is happy to let us do what we're doing.
Now, let me go back, and I'm just asking out of my own curiosity here.
Yeah.
The strategy that Joseph Kony had to abduct and press these girls into service, it's such an odd thing. Why did he pick the girls? Wouldn't it have made more sense to pick boys?
No, he picked boys and girls, but again, girls were more prized. He liked the girls more because they could serve as soldiers and sex slaves.
Yeah, okay.
And of course, they were given, sometimes were given as a reward to rebel commanders.
They served several purposes, exactly, for the Lord's Resistance Army.
Yeah, so that made the girls actually doubly disadvantaged.
It's an awful logic, but I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
Okay, I want to move forward just a little bit. So in 2014, Time magazine named you one of the 100 most influential people in the world. What an amazing recognition for this work that you did. Has that been a good thing for your cause and the things you care about? Has it been an annoyance to become a celebrity? You really are a celebrity around the world.
I actually don't even look at myself as a celebrity. And when people call me celebrity, I just don't know how celebrities look like. I've never been exactly in the line of celebrities. But the most important thing and the most advantageous thing I got from being put on Time magazine was giving me an extra platform.
Yeah.
And also giving me a voice and giving me the opportunity to meet people who I would not meet and letting them hear exactly what they did not expect to hear.
Right.
That's what I liked about it. It is not that I wanted that popularity, but if God gave me that opportunity, that was a moment to bring the voice of the voiceless to the right people. And in fact, I said, I want to challenge every influential person in this room that what are we doing with our status as influential people? Mm-hmm. If we cannot change the lives of people because we are influential, are we qualified to be called influential people in the world?
Well, and if you don't mind my saying so, your saying that has a kind of credibility that very few other people have, because you don't have to make the case, look and see what I've done. Everybody knows what you did, and they also know that you weren't seeking publicity or recognition, so that makes you all the more valuable as a role model, if you don't mind my saying that.
I even didn't know where they got me from, and it's like from the middle of nowhere, I hear, Sister Rosemary, you're on Time magazine. Many times I get some of these recognitions, and I really have to look for the meaning of them all. As what does it mean? How does it help me? And so forth. And one thing which I always consider is that, okay, this is going to give me an extra space, an extra platform. It's going to make my voice be heard a little louder.
Well, you're doing what you've always done. You have the values that you're advancing, and now you have some extra momentum to advance those values. You haven't changed. The world has caught up with you and understood you a little better.
I don't think I'm going to change. And actually, when I heard the news about Time magazine, I had a friend near me who was so excited and she was really amazed about everything. And I asked her, I said, do you think this recognition is going to make me a little taller? I'm the same, and up to now I've remained the same. I'm not going to grow taller because of any recognition. But if it can give me an extra hill, I stand on, it's well and good, and I'm happy about it.
It's definitely done that.
Yeah.
Okay, a question. You've had a very complex and productive and wonderful life. As you look back at these complex things that happened in Uganda and that you've been a part of, is there any part of it that you would do differently at this point? I mean, do you look back and see an opportunity that maybe you didn't see at the time, or?
You know, one thing, when I look back about everything which has happened in Uganda from my own time, I look at everything as a result of a kind of fiber which was broken. And that fiber is something to do with education. Okay. And I really strongly believe if I had the opportunity or if I had the chance to change any trend of event, I would have given a different way, a different opportunity, a different chance for education.
For yourself or for...
Not only for myself, for women.
Yeah.
Because the majority of people who drop out of school are women. And the reasons for which they drop out is studied sometimes, but not really in details. And for that reason now, I have gone ahead to really begin to revalue education and look at it in a more different way, and not only remain looking at it alone. I've thrown it to everybody to rethink, and we revalue, and we put extra focus on education.
But that's been your focus all along. You make me think of the documentary film Girl Rising. Do you know what I'm talking about? Yeah. CNN produced it, and that was their thesis, that there are problems all over the world that people feel they can't influence very much, but there's one thing they can do: educate girls and problem after problem is dealt with when girls are educated.
I totally agree with that, because if girls are educated, they will be given a voice. And of course, that voice will just produce the multiplier effect, because women are going still to be educating their children. They're going to give a voice to their children, and especially the girl child.
Those are exactly the points made in that film, that so many problems are addressed if girls are educated. Yeah. Now, I think anybody who knows about you and what you've done in Uganda is going to be thinking about this special approach that you've taken, that we were talking about a moment ago. You didn't wait for the church to encourage you. You didn't wait for anybody to fund you. You were much more focused on results, and you didn't wait for help. Is that a unique Sister Rosemary approach? Is that a result of being a Christian? Is it a result of being a nun? Is it just you? Is it all of these things coming together? There is a unique Sister Rosemary style in all of this.
I think it involves all, but above all, just being a human being and a person who believes in something. And that comes with my faith, and it comes with my sense of being religious, and it makes me to be more selfless, to really say, I need to find out exactly why I became a religious, and what does that mean? What am I going to do with it? And that's exactly what it is. And of course, the model we've been using has not really been the perfect model, but it is a model which anybody can copy. Like yesterday, I got a call from someone asking me if it will be possible one day to move on to Central Africa to try to give advice to religious women in Central Africa to deal with the victims of the Lord's Resistance Army War in Central Africa, just yesterday. And wow. I told the person, I say, there's really no formula, but I can talk about it, because you have to start, first of all, by accepting these people and just pretend not to know their background. Let them be people who you can trust. Live with them, and that's all. Love them.
Well, again, what you've done expresses what you just said louder than any speech, I think. You know, your actions really speak for themselves. There's such a wave of kind of interior nationalism sweeping Europe and a lot of the world right now, where countries are not looking much outside of themselves. They're sort of turning inward. There's a lot less support for underserved populations. There's a kind of a selfishness maybe that's taking shape in the United States and across the world. What message would you like to send to those countries and those world leaders, if you could, about what their responsibility should be at this point?
And actually, that's one thing I've been talking about for a long time. We should really try to overcome that narrow-mindedness or that myopic behavior that we think this problem is going to happen only here. Right. Because right now, everyone can look at the problem in northern Uganda and think it will stop there in northern Uganda. The problem which took place in northern Uganda 20 years ago, I always tell people, can happen anywhere. And we have to be open. We have to respond to it. And responding to the situation in northern Uganda means you have to start responding to the situation right here, because whatever happened, one day can happen here. But we all need to be prepared. The leaders need to be prepared. They should not, all the leaders in the world should not just say, we are going to deal with the current issues in our countries. You need to go out and really think how you can positively affect a change in other countries as well. And I think we all need to know whatever affects anybody anywhere in the world can affect us, even like in the United States or any developed country.
You mentioned the United States. Wouldn't you say, in fact, that the United States probably still has a special responsibility because of its wealth to think about the underdeveloped world and to be generous still?
I spoke at the National Prayer Breakfast just in February this year.
Is that in Washington, D.C.,
Yes.
National Prayer Breakfast?
Yes,
Okay.
and I said, United States should be a leading role. They should play that role of leadership.
Mm-hmm.
And right now, there are a lot of complaints, there's a lot of division, people are saying this and that. I said, well, we can complain about leaders. We can say this leader is not good, that president is not good. But what is your role as an individual? What are you doing? Because you're not going to be crying to the president or to the leaders to bring that change when you are not even able to bring a change. And someone asked me, said, what do you think we can do with our president? And I said, why are you talking about the president? What are you doing different? Mm-hmm. You need to do your part. Mm-hmm. Play your role in bringing a change. And the person kept on engaging me in questions. I said, tell me one thing. Are you planning to go to the White House tomorrow? You're not going to the White House. He said, no. If you're not going to the White House, let me tell you, there are very few people in the White House. And the majority of Americans are actually out here. Mm-hmm. You're not in the White House. So what are you doing to bring a change in your society?
Well, and again, you have a unique credibility to say these things because you've lived it. You didn't wait for help when you did all the amazing things you did in Uganda. Let me ask you about Pope Francis. Everybody in the world is very aware of his presence. He's a unique pope in his effectiveness and his compassion for people around the world. Has his impact been discernible in your work? I think you actually met him recently, right?
Yes, I met him last September. And for me, it was the greatest moment. I didn't expect to meet him because I was not prepared to go to meet Pope Francis. And I didn't meet him in Rome, but in Assisi, when he was meeting different religious leaders who are working for peace. So I was called to be one of them. And again, that was another surprise for me. But to see the simplicity of Pope Francis, taking time to meet all these different groups of leaders working for peace, and he had a word for every one of them, was so, so touchy. And when he reached near me, I was so moved. In fact, I was crying to see that this Christ representative was coming to me, and I was feeling very small, and at the same time, very happy.
You must feel very in harmony with him as well. I mean, for a lot of reasons, obviously, but also he's an activist. He's not just somebody that contemplates. He believes in doing and making the world better and accepting the responsibility. And those are values that you've always subscribed to.
I like him more for that. And one thing which I like very much from Pope Francis, he tells everybody, even religious people, say, go out, go to the periphery and meet the people where they are. I like that a lot.
Oh, that's a wonderful message.
Yeah.
You've done so much in your life, but my guess is there are goals that you still want to accomplish. What does Sister Rosemary still want to do in her life that she hasn't done yet?
I don't know what I've done, first of all. And I still think I'll continue doing every small thing I can do if I have an opportunity. And one thing which I really think I haven't done enough is bringing people together to form that partnership where people can work together. And my role model is here in OU. We are trying to put people together, and I'm feeling that things are moving.
You know, you've been such a advocate for education your entire adult life. And we were talking about this off camera just a little while ago. There's a documentary movie out and its thesis called Girl Rising, and its thesis is that so many of the world's problems would be solved if girls could be educated in places that they're not. That must be a strong draw for you, because that's what you've always done.
I like it, yes, because if we really want to educate the nation, it's always that saying that educate a girl and educate a woman, because a woman is going to educate other children, boys and girls. And I think that is something which is just a missing gap, especially in African countries, and let me be precise, northern Uganda, where education has been less valued for women, because women are taken by the stereotype mentality that they are supposed to be married, they're supposed to remain home, And so a lot of women have been left behind. And so I am thinking something I can still do and can still continue to rally a lot of people behind is to understand the importance of education for these women. Even from where they seem to have dropped completely from school, I think we can restart something.
It seems like a lot of abuse that women suffer around the world has to early marriage and sex trafficking, et cetera, would be changed if women were educated and knew more about their own power.
Yeah, but because education will give them a voice. And so the type of education I'm advocating for is education for liberation, education which can set a person free psychologically and even just mentally. Because if a woman can speak for herself, she will be totally freed from that psychological bondage, and she will get that voice that she can express herself freely and tell people what she wants.
Okay, could you look into the future, say 10 years down the road, and tell me what you see for Sister Rosemary and her schools? What does the future hold for you and your
10 years, I will be already retired, and I think I will not be there, who knows. But I think...
You will not be retired, I'm sure.
I may not actually retire. But what I think is that a lot of people, I hope, will be involved in this work, not only in Uganda, but also in the United States and anywhere. And also, I really hope that what I'm doing can be copied or replicated in other places. I know it may not be a very, very important thing, but if we put it around education, and especially basic education for people who dropped out of school, I think this model can be copied anywhere.
Well, you are so inspiring. I think if we make what you've done better known around the world, I think there really will be good results, good outcomes from it. Thank you for being here today, and thank you for your very important work. You've inspired so many of us.
Thank you so much. I'm always happy to be invited back here. And
well, you're invited again.
2 years.
let's do a third show. So
okay, thank you. I will be happy to come back.
Great. Thank you for being part of the show today. Join us next time for more current conversation. Thank you for being with us.